Excel 2007, the basics. Whether you've been using Excel for years and years, or this is your very first experience with a Microsoft spreadsheet, there will be something new in this nugget for you. Of course, we are going to start from scratch, so we'll have to add our own text and numbers. We'll take advantage of the autofill technique to let Excel really just figure out what it is we want it to do so we don't have to type as much. We'll do some very high-level formatting. We're going to save the more advanced formatting for a later nugget. AutoSum is a tool that's been around forever. So here I want to make sure you know where it is, or if you're new to Excel, that it exists, because in a couple clicks of a mouse, you can sum an entire column or an entire row. Well, chances are in a very large spreadsheet, eventually you're going to want to insert a new blank row or column, and I'll show you how. And just like always, there are the cut, copy, and paste commands in this data program, but I'll show you a couple shortcuts that you might not know about as well. Well, we've got to start somewhere, so let's start from scratch. Here is Microsoft Excel, and we want a very new blank spreadsheet. To do this, we can go to the Office button and select New. If you're used to the Control-N on your keyboard without having to go to a menu command, you can still do that. Something I like about this new version of Excel is all the expanded templates. Look at, these are some pretty typical things that you'll want to do in Excel. Maybe you have inventories or invoices that you're creating, purchase orders even. You have all sorts of different typical spreadsheet items that you can take advantage here. Now, some are built into your installation of Excel. Others allow you to go out to Microsoft's online website and download these templates for free. Now, I just want to make a blank spreadsheet, so I'll select blank and recent. A blank workbook, and I'll choose create. Here I have just your typical spreadsheet. Nothing at all but blank, empty cells. I'm in cell A1 right now. We always call our cells by their names. It's a combination of their columns and the rows. I can tell I'm in A1 because, well, it's bold, but also I have A1 up here in the name box. If I were to select F9, well, now I see F9 up here in this name box, but also I can tell because the column and the row is orange. I love that. I'm going to go back up to cell A1. I could click or I could press Control Home on my keyboard. Because a lot of people do data entry in Excel, it's really nice to know these keyboard commands so that you don't have to waste time, grab that mouse and click in various places. Well, we are going to create a small little spreadsheet for our pretend warehouse store that sells sports supplies. So in cell A1, I'm going to type January. I'm just going to type JAN for January. Now I can press Tab and type in February and so on down the line, but I can also show you a technique called autofill. Doesn't matter where you start. You don't have to be in cell A1, but you do have to make sure you select the cell that you want to, well, have Excel assume what the pattern is. So we're talking about months here. That's a typical pattern, right? January, February, etc. So I am going to use the autofill technique. Notice how my cursor is a fat plus. Pretty much it's a fat plus whenever I'm in Excel, unless I put it in different areas on a cell. If I put it in the bottom right-hand corner, where that little teeny box indicates, I get a skinny black plus. Now I can click and drag across. Excel is assuming my pattern, and it's assuming it correctly. And there I go. I have a nice range of cells. I didn't have to do all that typing. It's pretty nice, right? Here it even gives me this little box for my autofill options. If I click that down arrow, it's saying, hey, do you want to fill the series? Did I only want to copy the formatting across, or did I not want to copy the formatting across? And, you know, these are pretty typical here. So once I just choose to disregard that, it'll eventually go away. I really want to now put the row headers for my sports supplies down here. And before I do that, I need to move these headers, don't I? I wanted to show you this. That's why I started in cell A1. I could do a cut and a paste by going onto my Home tab, making a selection, using my scissors, and then clicking in just one cell where I want the beginning of my range to be pasted, and then clicking Paste. That's one way that you can do that. going to show you a way that I prefer. I'll click the undo button. It sets everything back. If I press escape, well, that removes that dashed line that indicates I have a selection on my clipboard. I clicked and dragged to select this selection. And now, for speed's sake, I'm going to move my pointer. Notice how now it's 2 overlapping arrows. It's not the fat plus, it's 2 overlapping arrows. It's not the skinny black plus. All right, I'm going to cut and paste this way. In fact, I'm just simply going to move. Now I've moved everything. I think that that is a lot quicker than doing the cut and paste command. Well, what do we sell here at our sporting goods store? We sell bats, we sell golf clubs, we sell tennis rackets, R-A-C-Q-U-E-T-S, I believe is how you spell rackets. I'll do a spell check later just to make sure. Notice here that tennis rackets is too long for column A. That means it's extended into cell B4. That's fine unless I actually type data in this cell, and now I can't read all of this text. That's where the nice auto size command comes in. If I were to put my pointer up in the column headers in between column A and B, see now my cursor looks different than it has before. If I simply double click, it's going to auto size that column to accommodate the widest text. I could have clicked and dragged also and made it whatever size I want. Notice it actually gives me a width counter kind of in the upper right hand area there. I like the double click though. It's always going to resize those items. You know, I'm just going to type in some numbers. In fact, let's only use January, February, and March. We'll do this by quarter. So I'll select those cells that I don't want text in and press delete on my keyboard to remove them. In the interest of time, we're just going to have a small little spreadsheet. So I had $700 worth of bats. I'll press tab to get into February's. We'll say that was $800. March was $1,500. When I press enter now, it puts me in the next available empty cell within my spreadsheet. Well, my range of cells where I'm adding data. We'll say that this is $1,450. I'll press tab. We've got $560 and $750. I hit enter. It brings me back here. $1,200 for tennis rackets seems about right. $1,000 in February. We're in Arizona, so we sell more. We have a lot more tennis going on in the winter months than you do perhaps out there in Minnesota. Well, now we have a basic spreadsheet created. From here, we'll do some very simple formatting. I'd like all my numbers to have dollar signs around them, so I can click and select that range. On my Home tab, I do have my number formatting area. I could choose dollar signs. Now they all have dollar signs around them, and they also have the decimal places. So as you can tell, I'm not concerned with decimals here. It actually takes away from the beauty of my spreadsheet. So I'm going to remove those 2 decimal places. I can do so here with this. I can increase my decimal places. Nope, don't want to do that. I can decrease my decimal places, bring them back to 0. All right. Now, I also have the ability of going back to my dollar sign, and instead of choosing the dollars, I could be maybe working with euros. So I can update it that way. This is new to Excel 2007. Just with a very simple click of a button, you can change the type of, well, currency you're working with. You could even open up a dialog box to get into more accounting formats. This is the same format cell dialog box that we've had for a very long time. I'm on accounting. I could change to currency, and by doing that, now my dollar sign, you'll notice, is going to be in a different spot in this spreadsheet. Again, I could choose what symbol. I can go back to 0 decimal places, and if I know I'll be working with negative numbers, I could choose. So I want them to show up as red with a parentheses around it, or just with a simple minus sign in front of it. I'll choose OK, and because I'm not using accounting, my dollar sign is squished right next to my numbers. I'm going to hit undo to show you what the difference was there. This is accounting. It's up to you. I could also change these back to not having a dollar sign at all. And by doing this, actually, I'll go to more accounting formats. I'll go back to general and I'll choose OK. Because then when I do my totals, I can have dollar signs around them. And I think maybe that will be a little bit easier on the eyes. Let's go ahead and do just some basic formatting. I want my column headers, January, February, and March, and my row headers to all look the same. If I press Control on my keyboard and click and drag, I now have two selections of data. Notice if I were just to click and drag here and then click and drag here, I wouldn't have two selections. So again, Control allows you to select cells that are not connected to each other. Why do you care? Well, very often you want the same look on a number of different cells, and you don't want to have to repeat the different formatting items that you're going to select, because I want to do quite a bit. I'm going to change the font. Something that's neat about Excel 2007 is you can see what that font is going to look like on your spreadsheet. Can you see behind this drop-down menu it says bats, golf clubs, and as I roll over, I can actually see what the different font is going to do on my spreadsheet. I want people to be able to read this, so I'll just go with the Arial Rounded. And now both my headers, my column headers, and my row headers were updated. Oops, I need to resize column A again. I'll go ahead and select this range of cells here, and I'll just change that font size. Actually, I'll make it 10. And you know what? I should probably make it the same font. That was the Arial Rounded font. Now, if I want to, I could also change the font color. And again, as you roll over the colors, it's going to show you what it will look like on the spreadsheet. I'll just do navy blue for kicks here. You still have your bold, italic, and underline, pretty much like you've always had. And you also can just increase the font size with a couple clicks of the button, which can be pretty nice. Let's go ahead now and embellish this a little bit more. When I select these items, I can also give them a little angle. Perhaps that'll improve the way that it looks on my spreadsheet. If I don't like that, I can always just click the undo button. We're not getting detailed into all of our formatting here. I just wanted to give you the basics. Let's go ahead now and sum up each one of these columns. One way that I could do that is I could click where I want the value to go, the sum of all of them. I'm on my Home tab. My Auto Sum button is right here. By simply clicking on it, it's going to say, all righty, what do you want me to sum? I'm indicating what I think you want me to sum. Is that true? If not, go ahead and just modify the formula here. It's right, so I could press Enter on my keyboard, or I could click that Auto Sum button again. If you knew specifically the numbers, maybe I only wanted to sum 2 of these, I could select them, and then I could click on the Auto Sum button, and it assumes and puts the number right below. It's giving me this little green triangle here. When I roll over it, it's going to tell me I've got a problem. Formula omits adjacent cells. Yeah, because I did not select the 800. I can just update the formula to include that cell, and now it has. How do I know? Well, when I select this once, I can see up in the formula bar, it's summing C2 through C4. By the way, if you double click in a cell, it also will show you what that formula is. If you're okay with it, then you can click the check mark. Everything is good to go. Now, I've shown you 2 ways that you can do this auto sum formula. I could also autofill over, and it's going to assume. I double clicked on that again. So that autofill works with formulas, it works with text, it works with numbers, it works with formatting as well. It's a pretty nice feature. I also want to sum up my rows totals. So I'm going to select these cells, I'm going to hit my sum button, and it's going to assume that in row 2 I want B2 to D2. If I press escape on my keyboard, it takes me out of that edit mode. If I double click on this cell, look at that. It's assuming, oh, well, you copied me down a row, therefore I should sum the 3rd row, not the 2nd row. Pretty nice, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. All right. It's always good to indicate labels. So I will do so here. And if I want these to stand apart from the other ones, I'll just select that column, press Control on my keyboard, select that row, and I could even make that background color a little bit different here so I can tell what it is that I'm working on. If I want the grand total of that, well, there it is. All right, this is just a simple spreadsheet, but wouldn't it be nice to have a name overall so we know what it is we're working with? Let's insert a row above row 1. We want to have a title of this spreadsheet. I can select the entire row, and then I can go here on my home ribbon, home tab on my ribbon, and choose Insert. What do I want to insert? Cells, insert rows into the sheet, or insert an entire sheet. Notice column is not a selection because I have a row selected. It does not know where in the world it could insert that column, therefore it doesn't even give me that choice. I could have also done a right click. Right click would allow me to insert, and it's going to insert whatever it is I have selected. Because I have a row selected, it inserts a row. If I were to select one cell and right click and choose Insert, notice how it has 3 dots. 3 dots indicates a dialog box is coming up. It's going to say, all right, what do you want to do? Insert an entire row, an entire column? Do you want to shift the cells down, shift the cells to the right? If I choose OK, now look, I have a blank little area in there. I don't really want that, so I'm going to select these items and move them right back up. I could have done an undo as well. If I want to delete one of these extra rows, I can select the entire row and I can right click and choose delete, or I can just simply click the delete button up there. I could have also cut it with Control X on my keyboard, or however you like to find cut. By cutting this, it just would have cut it, put it on the clipboard, and then the next time I copied or cut something, it would have overridden that on the clipboard. That's really the difference between cutting and deleting. Cutting, it keeps it until you want it later. What should we call this? Let's call this first quarter sports shop sales. I'll hit enter. That doesn't look so great though, does it? If I select all of these cells, I can center and merge these cells together so that my label first quarter sports shop sales will be nice and evenly centered across this entire selection, this entire spreadsheet, in this case, columns A through E. So I select what cells I want to merge, and I use this button here, and this will merge the cells and also center the data or text in the middle of it. So now this is just one cell. It's all considered A1. One cell with the text nicely centered and merged. I can make it a little bit bigger. Now I can change this back to that Arial rounded to look like the other one. I could even change the background color a little bit. I don't know. I don't think that looks all that fantastic. I'll choose undo. I'm going to leave it just like that. Well, I take it back. I don't like the way this whole thing looks. I'm going to put it all back to automatic font color. I'm going to put it all back to no fill. And now I am going to go to my page layout tab, and I'm going to take a look and see if there are any themes that I really would like to take advantage of here. As I roll over, it shows me some of the different choices that I have. This is aspect. Notice it figured out that my totals should be a little bit larger than the rest of my text. Also, when I did the auto sum, it did pick up that I should have my totals look like the accounting numbers there. I'm not sure I'm still all thrilled with the way this looks, but when we get into the advanced formatting, we'll talk more about how you can make it look fantastic. I always want to label my sheets. Sheet 1 is not descriptive enough. So I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to call that Q1, because I could always go in here and add more data later for Q2, and won't it be nice if I'm able to read and understand which sheet is which? So when I click on this, I go back to Q1. I was just simply double clicking, and then when I hit enter, I was able to enter this data. I could always select it and change it if I want to at a later time. Q1, enter, fine with me. At this point in time, I'm going to save my spreadsheet. It's called Book 3 just because this is the third time I've opened up a new file in Microsoft Excel. I'll click Save, and it's going to throw me into My Documents by default. It's the same as always. I could always put this in a different location. I'm fine with this location. I'm going to call this my Sport Shop Sales. It's saving it by default as an Excel workbook .xlsx because that's your Excel 2007 default. Of course, I could always change that to .xls if I need to email this to someone who's not using Excel 2007. If they're not using 2007, they can't open this type of file. I'll click Save, and now my title bar up here has updated to the name of my file. Well, if we were going to use this information for our second quarter, there's a couple things we could do. I could select all this text by clicking and dragging, and I could go back and copy by choosing copy, or I could right-click and choose copy. Of course, that fell off the end of the screen. I'll right-click down here so you can see it. Copy. This indicates that it's on my clipboard, those dashed lines. Then I could go to Q2. I'm in A1, and I could press Paste. I could press Control-V, or I could just press Enter to bring that in. But notice it's not going to be sized just like it was before. That's why sometimes what I like to do is copy the entire sheet. Doesn't matter what you have selected. You can right-click on the sheet. Then you can choose Move or Copy. What do I want to copy? Well, Q1. Well, where do I want to copy it? I want to copy it before sheet 3. I want to put a check mark and create a copy. Then when I choose OK, I have my second version of Q1. They're identical, but it's nice because I didn't have to go through resizing columns and rows and all that information. So pretty much I should give this a more descriptive name. In order to do that, I'm going to delete my Q3 sheet, I'm going to delete my Q4 sheet, and I'm just going to call this Q3. You know we're in the world of pretend, so we would have to basically delete the real numbers, and we would have to modify these to say the right months for Q3 there. So we'll save that for later activity. Notice I didn't delete my formulas because I know I'm going to put more data in there. Excel now is smart enough to realize, oh, there's nothing to calculate, so I'm just going to give you a dash indicating there's no data. You used to receive an error that said, hey, I'm so confused, this is a formula, but I have nothing to compute. Well, I'd have to update that too, wouldn't I? When I select this cell, I could either double click in this cell and type third, or I'll show you here when I go to Q2, I could select it and then I could go up here to the formula bar and make that change there. Also, when you select a cell, if you press F2 on your keyboard, you're in edit mode, and then you can use your arrows to go back and forth between these words. Control in the left arrow will take you word by word. Control in the right arrow bumps you word by word, which is also a shortcut technique. The reason why I'm telling you these simply are because when you're in Excel, you are going to be typing quite a bit. You don't necessarily want to take the time to grab that mouse. Well, we would have to make the change to all this information as well. Just in the spirit of consistency, I'll do that. We made some changes, right? So we should save this. Control S on my keyboard, or just clicking the Save button up here, or going to the Office button and choosing Save will do that all for me. Once we do this, we're going to send it off to our teammates so they can take a look at it and do whatever it is that they need to do. You have to have Microsoft Outlook hooked up. As I do, it opened up a new email, and I could send this to whoever I wanted to. Of course, include some very important text. Click the Send button, and I know my part of this job is done, and now it's in the hands of someone else to look at it and give me their comments. This has just been the basics regarding putting together a spreadsheet, but we certainly did cover a large amount of information. No doubt you have to input the text in numbers. You could have figured that one out on your own, I'm sure. But hopefully being able to see the autofill technique gave you some ideas of what you can do to maybe improve the efficiency that you work with Excel. We have some basic formatting techniques. Some auto sum has been around for a while, but hopefully you feel more comfortable with it if you didn't already, or at least now you know where you can find it. It's a fantastic tool that really can save you a great deal of time. Inserting rows and columns is just a right click away, or you can go to the ribbon to find the very simple to use command. And of course, cut, copy, and paste is on the ribbon. On your home ribbon, it's a right click away, or you can simply make sure you select cells that your cursor looks the right way, black plus for copy, 2 arrows overlapping for cut, then you can simply click and drag. The more you work with these items and keyboard commands, the quicker that you can become at, doing the small details of Excel so you can really focus in on your job. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.